On May 26, 2025, we're going to have a Gemini new moon, and this new moon stirs the restless winds of thought, will awaken curiosity and inner dialogue. But this is a moon of quiet tension where ideas turn inward, tangled in uncertainty, hesitation, and unspoken truths. Yet within this stillness lives Gemini's true gift. The urge to shift perspective, to question, to break free from old patterns. What feels like limitation may simply be the invitation to see more clearly during this lunar cycle. And in this subtle moment, the cosmos offers us a quiet turning point, a chance to choose new thoughts, new words, and a new way forward. Gemini is all about communication. It is all about dialogue. It is how we speak to ourselves. It is how we speak to others. It is the information that we input into our operating system, if you will. Gemini is mental. Gemini is chaos. It is mutable air. And this particular new moon is very much about integrating something that has been going on in that part of our life, something that may even be recent, as we are now concluding the Jupiter and Gemini transit, which I talked all about actually in the Jupiter and Cancer video. If you have not seen that, the first 10 minutes of that video was like pretty much all dedicated to Jupiter and Gemini. And I asked you guys to share your Gemini stories because, I mean, man, we have had a year of craziness with that Jupiter in Gemini moment, okay? So Gemini has really been stirred up for all of us, and we are now in Gemini season during this new moon, so this is a pretty much massive birthing moment for the beginning of Gemini season. So, you know, Gemini is pretty active right now at the time of this new moon. Okay, Mercury actually is in Gemini during this new moon. So we are having a massive moment for the ruler of Gemini. Okay, so if we had not had any extra, if we haven't had mental stimulation on an all-time high already, we now have the ruler of Gemini there to continue to stir up the conversation. I hope that makes sense, and I'm sorry for rambling on, for mixing up my words there. But, you know, Gemini in this moment is asking us to birth something, but it's also asking us to investigate something that has been plaguing us there, something that has really kind of had us in a mental entrapment, in some kind of intellectual prison, if you will. Now, new moons are all about birthings, and I say this all the time in my lunar cycles. I have to really remind all of you, especially those of you who are new to astrology, that new moons are all about birthings because they are black in the sky, and every day that follows a new moon, we start to see a little bit more and more and more of the moon. So the moon essentially is being reborn as we see it bloom into the next full moon cycle, where full moons are all about revealings, because when a full moon is full in the evening sky, all the things on the land that were once in darkness are now visible. So when you think about lunar cycles in that way, it gets so much easier to understand and to really keep your eyes open what to look for, you know, during, when you reflect on your life. And when you know astrology, you know the quadrant or the whole sign house or whatever system you use, what house topic that zodiac sign, that new moon, full moon is falling in. So new moons are about birthings, okay? And this new moon is going to be about mental liberation. And when we get deeper into this video, we're going to explore why that is. And this has everything to do with the Decans. And you know that I work with the Decans, my friends, and every single one of those Decans has a tarot card associated with it. So we're going to talk about that. Okay, and for those of you who don't know what Decans are, they are subdivisions of the zodiac. It is an ancient system of technically astrological magic, in my opinion, and each one of those Decans has a ruling planet that gives that zodiac sign a flavor of its own. 3 different sections of every zodiac sign that has a different flavor based upon that ruling planet, and then there's a tarot card associated with it. I'm going to be doing a massive Decan course in 2026, by the way. So if anyone's interested in that, just let me know in the comments, number one, but also just wanted to say that while I'm on a Decan rant there. But again, this Decan tells the story of this new moon. And every lunar cycle I've been studying and tracking, especially here on YouTube for all of you guys, these decans and these lunar cycles have been manifesting perfectly. So to really understand the tarot and the decans and the lunar cycles, what they're asking of us, think about the zodiac sign. What is it asking? What theme of life is that? Gemini is all about the mind, communication. So we have to not only understand what a Gemini new moon means archetypally, but we also have to understand what it means in that part of our lives, you know? So please share with me where Gemini is in your birth chart. You know I love reading the comments. For me, my 8th house is Gemini, okay? And I have my moon in Chiron there. And don't get me started on the life experience I've had that has led me to this moment in time. Don't get me started on the death, crisis, and suffering that I've had to endure and witness in my life. And I'm not saying that from a place of, you know, like, ooh, poor me. It's just that has awakened me. That has has made me the man that I am today, the astrologer I am today, you know, the person I am today. And the 8th house has been a very primed place for so many things. And this past year with Jupiter there has been a beautifully expansive transit, at sometimes very chaotic, of course. Definitely elements of shared resources, because the 8th house is also known for that, as many of you know. But to have this new moon there, I'm already very well aware of what this mental liberation is going to be all about. And quite frankly, I'm very excited to see what the actual manifestation will this, you know, what will this actually kind of bring me on the day of. Okay, so we all have to be very clear on where Gemini is in our birth chart. We all have to be very honest with what's going on in our life. And we all have to very much reflect on what Jupiter in Gemini has been all about for you. Because I'm not saying this necessarily has something to do with that, but I mean, whenever we have massive transits, there's always a karmic lesson there, you know? And that's the thing. We're only born on this planet with so many transits. I mean, if you really think about it, I mean, we really take for granted the time we have here. And we're only fated with so many, like new moons and full moons. And I know that sounds crazy because we have tons of them all year round. But in the grand scheme of math and numbers, we only get so many moments in time where we experience these transits, because before you know it, you get old, right? You start aging. And then time really seems like, oh my God, where did it go? And I know a lot of my older folks out there feel this way. So it's so important when you know astrology to treat it as an evolutionary tool, okay? And when we look at our lives as an evolutionary process, when we look at spirit and spirituality as an evolutionary process, you know, we can get really clear and really hyper-focused on certain things in our life. So the Gemini part of our lives are being highlighted for this new moon, my friends. And this will be falling in the first decan of Gemini. The first decan is a Jupiter decan, okay? So we're going to talk about how that Jupiterian flavor is going to influence this birthing moment for this Gemini, you know, energy here, and whatever situations are being kind of illuminated for you to take action on, to take initiative on, to spark initiation on, rather. And because we're dealing with a tarot card that is quite, you know, I would say it's a little bit interesting and undesirable sometimes, but it also is the most important when we really need a breakthrough. And this tarot card is the 8 of Swords, so we're going to talk about that. And this is exactly why I'm saying this new moon is really about mental liberation and to really kind of break free from some kind of a thought pattern, some kind of you know, chaotic communication network of some kind. Okay, whether this is an internal network of like confusion, or if we are literally in situations where we have to break free from just, you know, chaos of the mind. You know what I mean? So let's go over some new moon basics though. A new moon sparks the start of a new lunar cycle. When the sun and moon are conjunct, align in the same sign. Energetically, this is a seed planting time. So new moons are always about seed planting. So I'm not saying we're going to break free from the mental entrapment. I'm not saying we're going to overcome the confusion of whatever is happening in the Gemini part of your life as we begin this Gemini season, So I'm saying the sun gets into Gemini and it might really illuminate some shit. You know what I mean? So this lunar cycle is going to be offering us a moment to birth something, to at least set some massive intentions to break us free from some kind of mental entrapment, okay? Some mental imprisonment, okay? There might be some dialogue happening in that part of your life where you're like, oh my God, I really need to find a way out of this. I really need to stop obsessing over this. Like, what do I have to do to ground myself and birth something here so I can become free, So this really is a new moon about inviting freedom on the mental and intellectual level. So this is perfect for setting intentions and initiating new experiences, especially in the sign that we're dealing with. So Gemini is the sign we are dealing with. Okay. So this is some new moon basics. Okay. Initiating new experiences, new intentions, new prayers, new mantras, whatever the case may be. Okay. So what does a Gemini new moon invite? Typically, new intentions around communication. So think writing, speaking, teaching, learning. It's a perfect time to set goals related to how you connect with others or absorb and share knowledge. So again, these are just basics for Gemini new moons, okay? Rewiring thought patterns. This is probably going to be the one that we need to focus on the most, because this is, again, when we are dealing with mental imprisonment and entrapment, we need to rewire new thought patterns, which is very difficult for some of us. Okay. So this is where, meditation can come into play. This is where doing the research on the exact things that are ailing you in the Gemini part of your life. And again, share with me, if you already have some intuitions on what this can mean, like definitely let me know in the comments. But this is where we need to get clear on these issues and learn to rewire how we're speaking to ourselves, how we may be coming to the world and speaking to a certain situation we're in. So this is important, okay? And when it comes to astrological magic, we really want to speak to the planets and meditate with them and speak to them as you are in a way in which you want to manifest the highest vibration of what that particular transit represents. Okay, so typical astrological magic without creating a talisman or something would just be like, okay, hey, listen, sit in meditation and speak to the issues you're having and really, ask the new moon in Gemini to bring you a massive timeline that can offer you this mental freedom and liberation, okay? And when you do that, and you really put your heart and soul into the intention during that meditation, okay, and then look up maybe some moon rocks or certain stones, like however shamanic and magical you want to get. And then you can allow that transit to maybe help you even further. So I know I'm going on a tangent there, but astrological magic can be very helpful, and there's a lot more to it, but that's kind of just like a baseline, maybe some advice for you. Starting mental or educational projects, this can also be very liberating for whatever could be going on for you. So again, depending on what is happening in that part of your life, whatever the situation is, starting some kind of mental or emotional project, right? So starting something, initiating something that can be mentally stimulating, that can maybe break you out, again, of the patterns, okay, that maybe are the cause of a lot of this. Opening to dialogue, that's something else that's huge, a potent time to initiate important conversations. I'm sure a lot of us have some conversations in that part of our life that could use, maybe a little bit more, clarity. Maybe we can put a little bit more effort in the way we talk to someone or to ourselves. Okay. I mean, I know for the 8th house for me, I'm going through a very transformative moment. And like, I always think daily, how can I enhance my spiritual practice? How can I enhance my deeper connection to myself, to maybe some of the trauma that is still bubbling around, and maybe some things that got stirred up over the past year. So, we all have something, and lastly, a new moon in Gemini can explore the multitudes within you. I mean, this is probably the second most important thing. Exploring the multiple yous, the multiple minds, the multiple voices that might come up in that part of your life. So I feel the Gemini part of our life, whatever area that is, whatever house topic that is, we can be dealing with multiple versions of ourselves, not to get crazy, but there could be a lot of mental overload, but also a lot of mental excitement there, where we really love to communicate things involving that particular part of our life. Or, like if Gemini was the fourth house of home, you may really enjoy and need a very powerful home that involves speaking and communicating with each other. Communicating within the family dynamic might mean the world to you. Okay, so there may be an issue for some of you during this new moon cycle where you really need to break free through maybe a communication barrier with someone that you've been having a hard time with. There could be something like that. And that can manifest in the seventh house as well, involving partnerships. Maybe this is a moment of breaking free, when it comes to the way you're dialoguing with your partner. Or maybe this is time for a really difficult conversation and to break free from some kind of mental entrapment involving this partnership or a business partnership, whatever the case may be. So again, that's kind of what a Gemini new moon's all about, just baseline. And again, we're going to discuss how this Decan is so important for understanding why this is, and just understanding a little bit more clearly on what this Eight of Swords moment will bring for this new moon and what we need to be doing to set these new intentions and to be birthing kind of our new path forward in the Gemini part of our life. So before I continue, my friends, I would just like to say that if you're enjoying this video thus far, and if you're enjoying any of the content on my channel and you're new, I would love to have your subscribe. I would love to have you like the video, leave a comment. All that stuff would really help the channel. And I've been seeing nothing but amazing growth here for the last 4 or 5 months, guys. I mean, we really have been building an amazing community here. So, if you are new, please consider subscribing and supporting my work. It would mean the world to me. And the more people out there that are, kind of just witness to astrology, generally speaking, and with so many people enjoying this channel, it would, I think it would really be beneficial for all of us, because the more people that are interacting in the comments and just engaging, I mean, this creates a beautiful expansion of astrology in the YouTube world, especially considering we're on YouTube. But yeah, my friends, and usually I leave this section for any announcements. I really don't have any announcements, guys. I mean, I would encourage you to book a reading with me if you would like to get in for the summer. I only have a few spots left in June, and July is ready to go for bookings. So, I would really encourage you guys to book a reading if you can, because other than that, we're going to get into August, and then in September, can you believe the whole summer is going to go by? And I really want to meet some of you guys. We're going through a massive moment in astrology. Uranus is going into Gemini, July 6th, I believe. And this is going to be huge. Imagine getting a reading right during Uranus and Gemini's ingress. This is going to be a great time for astrology. So that all being said, I really have nothing else going on right now aside from continued expansion in understanding how I want to teach courses next year. And we got a lot coming, my friends. So that all being said, let's continue on this video on the new moon in Gemini and what this Decan's all about and this tarot card. All right, my friends. Well, like I said earlier, this first Decan of Gemini is where this new moon will be falling. And this first Decan is ruled by Jupiter and the Eight of Swords in the Minor Arcana. Now, I love talking about the Decans, and I know sometimes I get a comment every now and then where people are like, you don't have to talk about the Decan so much. And I'm like, well, the only reason why I'm so heavy on them for the lunar cycles is because when I observe the world on the collective level, and even in my own life and people around me's lives, this very much adds to the depth and the reality of what this new moon can bring. So I feel it's important because it really does allow us to hyper-focus in on a certain part of our life, in that Gemini part of our lives. So again, if you kind of can observe your Gemini part of your life, whatever house topic that is. And again, let me know in the comments where that is. And do you know where there's a place in that house topic, right, where you feel trapped, where you feel like there's a moment where you're having analysis paralysis, self-imposed limitations. So this is the thing, guys. This really is something that's like self-induced, and that's like kind of the point here. We all can get in our own head and kind of just screw ourselves up, mentally speaking. And yeah, other people and situations can be a part of that, but we can still be the cause of some of these issues, So the Eight of Swords often shows a blindfolded figure bound and surrounded by swords, trapped but not truly imprisoned. And that's the thing. This is kind of self-generated, but it's still very real to us. So it's not like we discount like the experience we're having, because that's not how you heal. That's not how you overcome anything in your life. But this is what we're dealing with. So we all have the power to sit in a meditation, to do a shamanic ritual, to do a little astrological magic and really speak to the problems that you're having on an intellectual level and a mental level, and try your best to take the handcuffs off. You know what I mean? So, this is really a new moon in the realm of the Eight of Swords. So when we deal with a new moon, this is really a karmic reset point involving this. Okay, so a karmic reset point when we deal with breaking through mental blocks. The Eight of Swords suggests the mind is caught in a loop, okay? But a new moon here is a fresh key. It offers the potential to unlock those mental binds. Think of it like a soft psychic whisper saying you're not actually trapped. The door has been open all along. So, if you're in a mentally turbulent relationship, you can leave. You can. It is possible. It may not be easy, but it is possible, especially if we're dealing with any kind of abuse. All right. And I don't really feel like going into that territory, but for some reason, intuitively, something made me want to say that, because a lot of people think just because, we feel like we're bound to something, that doesn't mean we have to stay. And that goes for anything. Okay. So again, we always have an opportunity to leave a situation, to speak our truth. We always have an opportunity to change the way we think about something, the way we talk to ourselves. Okay, so this is a perfect time to shift thought patterns, a perfect time to release limiting beliefs about what you can and can't do, or think and can't think. Okay. I deal with clients all the time that are very much controlled by their partners. Okay. And it's a very, very common thing for, some misogynist men out there to be doing to their women, to their girls, not their women. Jesus God. I'm sorry for making it sound like that, but to their spouses, to their partners, whatever the case may be. And, as a man, that breaks my heart, because I was raised by really, really strong women. And it's a shame that a lot of these issues actually stem from men that were treated horribly by women, and also, other male figures that were horrible in their lives. So the thing is that, we are dealing with, based on the clients I've had, let me get back to that real quick. Side quest. They all said at a certain point, they realized, I could fucking leave. I could just, figure out a way to get out of this mess. But during that cycle of being in that relationship, many of the times they are trapped. Okay. And yes, there are serious situations which sometimes it can be dangerous just to pick up and leave from certain people. I get that. But more than half of the time, there is a self-imposed imprisonment that eventually, when the time does come, they do free themselves. Okay. So think of that moment. Whenever that happens in a person's relationship, where they do decide to say, fuck you, I'm out. Like, that is the Eight of Swords moment where you break free. That is an example of a new moon Eight of Swords moment, okay? Where you are birthing a moment of clarity and you are saying, I'm done, I'm out. And I am releasing the handcuffs from me. I'm getting a divorce, I'm getting a lawyer, etc., etc. So start thinking in a new way. This is what this new moon is inviting with this Eight of Swords. Okay, so say to yourself, I reclaim my voice. I clear space for my thoughts. I choose clarity over confusion. These are massive intentions to set during this new moon cycle. Okay, illusions versus insight. The Eight of Swords warns of illusion. Gemini's shadow. Okay, so Gemini is great at creating illusions. The new moon is here, like turning off the outer light so you can see what's flickering inside. Okay, so are these real obstacles that you're dealing with? So, always ask yourself if there are illusions bubbling around. Like, are there things that are just fantastically generated by your own mind? Because yes, there are real situations we have to deal with and break free mentally so we can make massive psychological decisions to, for example, break free from an abusive relationship or something, or an abusive workplace, or an abusive family member, or just chaos within something there. But there also could be self-generated illusions where things aren't actually happening. Things aren't actually the way that they are in reality. You have to get quiet with yourself. And this new moon might offer you that moment to get quiet, and to, again, maybe have that strength and clarity to plant some new seeds. So the role of Jupiter here, guys, we're in a Jupiter-ruled Decan, and when you look back far enough in ancient astrological history, there's a lot of, faces and pictures and depictions of the Jupiter archetype, especially with Gemini. Okay, so, when it comes to Jupiter, we're dealing with wisdom, we're dealing with knowledge, we're dealing with freedom. So again, in Gemini, it's like the freedom to think, the freedom to explore and to expand ourselves in a very profound way, which is actually difficult in Gemini because we just had this Jupiter in Gemini transit, and Jupiter, who rules Sagittarius, which is across the aisle, Jupiter in Gemini is in exile, which means it really is trying to expand and trying to bring us truth, clarity, and wisdom. But at the same time, it is bringing us overwhelm, way too much. It is expanding way too many things. And it's very difficult to kind of weed through and find the gems of wisdom that are going to be most meaningful. But still, the gems of wisdom are there. And that's why I think by the time this new moon has come, with Jupiter in Gemini finding its way out of Gemini, there could be a massive gem of wisdom that we can grab onto that helps us liberate this mental, entrapment, this analysis paralysis, So the role of Jupiter is an invitation to filter, refocus, and free your mind with depth and with hopefully wisdom, and to get really, really clear on the truth of what is going on in Gemini for you. Okay. So this is going to be a wild new moon, my friends, and I'm really excited about it because for someone who is an 8th house Gemini moon with Chiron, again, it's no surprise that I'm like an astrologer I was always told I could be a psychologist, but for me, I couldn't really handle school that well, but because I was always an artist as well. Again, super deep guy, Scorpio rising and fucking Pisces 5th house, and Leo sun. A lot of people ask you what my big three are. There you go. So, I've always been someone who, aside from the Leo sun and wanting to be seen and wanting to always shine, something I care about and am passionate about, that Gemini moon and Chiron in my 8th house, that is what has brought a lot of people to me that need problem solved, a lot of people that need psycho-spiritual insight, because that 8th house is very much a house of transformation in psychology, the subconscious, there's a lot of deeper stuff going on involving crisis, even death. So for me, I love when there's a challenge. I love when there is something we need to overcome. And I love offering guidance, and I love offering perspective. And the 8 of Swords for me is a challenge. This is a deep ask for us to investigate and for us to free ourselves from our own self-limiting beliefs. Because again, like I said, for a lot of us, I think this is actually self-limiting. But also there could be a lot of serious things going on there, like the, horrible abusive relationship analogies I was mentioning today. And I am sorry if there's any of you guys going through that or have been through that, but I really want all of you to stress, we all have a birthright to liberate ourselves for happiness, for peace, for clarity, for harmonious relationships. And yes, most of the time we have to go through bullshit in our life so we can get clear on what it is we want and, what we deserve. We have to get clear on the issues and problems we have and what we've been through so we can, achieve that higher timeline. So 4 clear guidance points, my friends. Notice the mental cages. Pay attention to limiting beliefs or thought loops that keep you stuck. Many of them are self-imposed and ready to be questioned. Okay, so again, the mental cages need to be unlocked. You are free to leave. You are free to do something new. Okay. Reclaim your inner voice. Again, Gemini loves to be inside the mind and to talk to itself. Okay. There could be 3 different versions of ourselves in that part of our life. And we need to get clear and reclaim the true voice. Okay. Reclaim that. Shift your perspective. This is very important. And choose thoughts that liberate. Okay. So again, start consuming content, or, start reading a certain type of spiritual book, like, research something that can liberate your thoughts. Maybe read some Zen Buddhism. I love Zen Buddhism. There's a lot of interesting poetry that you can read in the Zen Buddhist world that can very much allow you to help get your mind calm, and Geminis need to learn how to calm their mind. And for me, that's why certain meditative perspectives, philosophically and practice-wise, are very important for me as a Gemini moon. So it's very important to choose thoughts that liberate, and usually we have to calm ourselves for us to maybe even get a little clear there. Not every thought deserves your belief. That's also something very important, guys. And that is what meditation can teach us. Okay. And you don't really need to meditate, just a little bit of meditation every day to sit quietly and to observe your thoughts. And that's what meditation teaches you, that you're not really your thoughts. You are the witness of thought. And the thoughts that we have are, yes, based upon the experiences we go through in life. But if you really analyze in meditation what thought is, they are just things that kind of zip in like zip files and then leave just as quick. And we have to get clear that we can liberate ourselves from some of the negative ones, the ones that keep us, in prison, if you will. And then we can learn to break free from whatever is ailing us. Okay. Now, one last thing I want to mention, and maybe I'll make another video on this, maybe I won't, but a lot of other astrologers are probably going to talk about it. We're having a Mercury Cazimi literally 2 days after this new moon. Okay. And to me, that is the omen. That is the karmic transit that is going to be, I think, for all of us, the liberating moment. So we are going to be liberated. There is going to be that moment of shackles released. Let's free ourselves from our own bullshit, from our own mental imprisonments. And that Mercury Cazimi, look on any astrology chart. Look, it's on the screen right now. I'm showing you right now where the Mercury Cazimi is. And this is 2 days later. Okay, 2 days later, Mercury gets to the heart of the sun and is purified. Cazimis are purifications of the planet. Okay, so we're going to have this new moon moment. We're going to have to put some intentions and work into the recognition of whatever's going on there. Okay, this is a time to, this is where the pimple is coming to a head and it's about to pop, and we are going to have that Mercury Cazimi, which is going to pop that pimple. And I am very sorry for putting that image in your head, but this is what's happening, guys. And we're going to have a purification of the mind. This is the moment where we can break free. So be fearless, my friends, and really examine what this new moon's all about. Put those intentions in. Okay, birth a new way of thinking, a new way of communicating with yourself. Okay, and with others, or whatever the situation is. Okay, so that's all I have for you for this video, my friends. I hope you took something from this. Thank you so much for watching as usual. And if you're new and stay to the end, please consider subscribing to the channel. And yeah, I will see you all in the next video.